Let me repeat those, right? There's time, there's money, there's a mistake tolerance, there's past experience, and the relative importance of a goal. Okay. So let me walk through these individually. Do you need me to repeat those?
The 5 things.
5 things that I think are important, because think about this. If you're trying to sell yourself, right, to someone who generally thinks that they can do it themselves, these are 5 things you have to address within their mind. 5 points, right? Time, money, mistake tolerance, past experience, and relative importance of that goal. Okay? Let's take time for a moment, right? And I'm going to speak about the do-it-yourselfer. When we speak about time, we speak about how quickly are you likely to get the results, right? If I am training for a marathon and I need to train to get to a certain speed within a very short time period, do I want to rely on myself to stumble across what's best, to do trial and error, or do I want to hire a marathon coach who's going to help me get to my goal in the fastest time period? Make sense? Anyone have any questions on that? Okay. So basically, how quickly you get to your results. Now, if you're doing it yourself, that's not important, right? How quickly I get there is less important to me just simply getting there, right? I don't necessarily have a time frame, right? If I'm trying to open a business, and I don't necessarily set a time frame to it, how quickly I get there is not important to me, if I'm willing to do it myself. Make sense? Okay. If I have little or a lot of past experience, if I have a lot of past experience in what I'm trying to accomplish, does it make sense for me to hire someone else to do it? If I have a lot of experience myself doing it. Conversely, if I have little to no experience and my goal is very important, should I rely on myself or should I hire someone to do it for me? Okay? So remember, the first one is time, how quickly you want to get to that goal. The second one is the level of past experience you have with it. If you're trying to, and what I do is I help my clients reduce gaps in sales performances. If you don't know what it takes for you to reduce the gaps in your sales performance because you've never done it before, right? And your sales goal is very important for you to get to, whether it's a quarterly goal or whatever it is, then you're best trying to hire a specialist to help you get there rather than you stumbling across the way. And you can look at each one of your own professions to kind of make that same calculations, right? So if you are in marketing, and you are trying to help your client build a brand or do lead generation, and they have no experience in doing that, and you're trying to convince them of the reasons why they should hire you, that's one of the points that you can speak about, right? You lack the experience, I have the experience. I'm battle tested, you're not. Which gets me to my third point. If you're not battle tested, what is your risk or your mistake tolerance? If your mistake tolerance is low, can you afford to do it yourself? If your mistake tolerance is low, can you afford to do it yourself? No. Why? Because the wrong mistake can be a very costly mistake, particularly if you're investing millions of dollars, right? Or if you're involved in a medical procedure that's life-threatening. Right? So there are certain activities, because of the mistake tolerance, it's best to hire a specialist. Is your business one where the mistake tolerance is low? If so, then that's another way that you can utilize to help convince a buyer, help convince a potential customer that that's one of the reasons they should go to you, because you can help them reduce the mistakes that they may happen along the way, particularly if they do it themselves. If I have little to no experience doing it and my risk tolerance is high, then I'm going to be willing to do it myself because I can afford to take those risks. Make sense? Okay. My next one is, which one is more important to you? Your money or your time? Think about this. Which is more important, your money or your time? Now I have a question. If you were doing it yourself, what do you place the importance on, your money or your time?
Money.
Money. If you're willing to do it yourself, you say your money is worth more than your time, right? Make sense? Now, if you value your time more than you do your money, you're going to be willing to hire a specialist, right? Does that make sense? And I know these seem kind of simple, but if you think about it, right, you have a short time when you need to reach your goal, right? Your risk tolerance is low. You value your time more than you value your money, and you have little to no experience in doing that task. That's when a specialist is in order. Make sense? Now, the last one is the importance you place on the attainment of that goal. Okay? I may have a goal, but it's not as important, right? Even though I might fall into the other categories, right, where my risk tolerance is low, right? I value my time more than I value my money. I don't have much experience in doing it, but the importance of me reaching that goal is very low. So therefore, I believe that that's the one factor that overrides the other 4 factors. Because if it's not important enough for me, then I'm willing to consider the other options. I may think about it, but those options are not going to be the basis by which I ultimately make my decision. Does that make sense? So think about that, right? I'm going to recap. Time. How quickly do you need to get there? Right? Money. Right? Is money or time more important for you? So what do you value more? How much experience do you have? Your mistake tolerance, and the relative importance of that goal. When you consider all of those, and I would believe that if you're doing a sales presentation and you're trying to convince someone to go with you, who probably have not outsourced what they are doing now, and you want them to outsource it to you, if you build those 5 points in your presentation, you're going to address most of the concerns that they have. Okay? Most of the concerns they will have about why they should even decide to, not necessarily why they should choose you, because before they choose you, they have to first decide whether or not if it makes sense for me to outsource it. Then it becomes, if I do outsource it, who am I going to outsource it to? So you first have to build the case that is beneficial to them long term for them to hire a specialist. Make sense? Okay. So I'm going to kind of wrap up with asking some questions, and then the one question, or the 2 questions, is trade-offs and opportunity cost, right? But before I get started, I would like for someone to share with me what they believe the difference is between a trade-off and an opportunity cost. Someone who's not in finance. A trade-off and an opportunity cost. So what's the trade-off?
Just for that.
Just for that. You give up something in exchange for something else, right? Now, invariably, do you believe that every decision that we make, there's always 2 choices, to do something or not to do something, right? And invariably, there's always a cost associated with every decision that we make. So the trade-offs are the actual actions that we decide to take or not to take. The opportunity costs are the relative costs that are associated with each one of the trade-offs. Some trade-offs may have a higher opportunity cost. For example, and I have this conversation with my son, he's 12 years old. You have two options. You can either decide to do your homework now, even though it's not due until the end of the week. You can decide to do your homework now and manage it throughout the course of the week, or you can decide to play the entire week and do the homework on the last day. You have 2 options, right? Now, what are the trade-offs in there, right? So there's some trade-offs. Now, what are the costs that are associated with it? Right? So if you make a decision to do something, you should also consider the fact that there are costs associated with you deciding to do this, because by deciding to do this, you're also deciding not to do the other. So from that perspective, what do you believe, from your experience, and anyone can speak, are some of the biggest trade-offs if someone decides to do it themselves relative to what you do as a professional? What are some of the trade-offs? Anyone?
Well, it's
Yes.
going to take me longer to get to that goal.
Longer to get to that goal. That's the biggest trade-off.
I think that decision so often. I think that through so often.
Yes.
that How long can I afford to take to get to the end result?
Okay. One trade-off. Yes.
Learning curve.
Learning curve.